Yeah. All right. I guess let's get right down to business here. Today we are making a fougasse. A fougasse is a it's a big bread that has a fun shape. Usually, it's the shape of a leaf or a ladder. It's got a lot of crust, a lot of surface area to it. It's good for like ripping apart, sharing, dipping in olive oil, just eating, whatever. But it's going to be pretty cool. And we're going to use some additions to make it even more flavorful. So I got olives here. I've got a bunch of herbs. I've got olive oil. And that's going to all add in to make it more delicious. The timing on this one is we're gonna first mix we're gonna autolyse right now, so just mixing the flour and the water together, and then we'll get the rest of our stuff situated, and then we will mix everything together, and then we'll do a couple stretch and folds today, and then it goes in the fridge, and tomorrow we'll bake it. Tomorrow we'll actually shape it and bake it. So usually we shape it the day before. Because this is such a going to be a big shape, we will shape it tomorrow morning and let it rest for a little bit and then bake it. But this recipe is super flexible. So if you don't have a lot of time tomorrow, for instance, you could bake today. You could, since it's going to be chilling in the fridge, you could bake early tomorrow. You could bake late tomorrow. You can shape and go directly into baking. But we'll get into all that. So, all right. First things first. So I sent out the recipe. It's from the Perfect Loaf. This guy makes a lot of bread, so we're gonna have his recipe. So his recipe makes 4 of these suckers, and we're gonna just make 2. Um, so I've got it printed out here in halves. So you all ready?
David, if people want to make just one, can they have this?
Can they have the half and a quarter? I don't see why not. Yeah, you definitely can. So if you want to just make just one of these things, feel free to have everything that I'm saying.
Well, we won't announce the halving because that becomes very confusing. So if you want to half it, write down what we say and half it yourself. Otherwise, I don't know.
That's right. Cool. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the flour. So this, he calls for a mixture of white and wheat. And so it's like 10% whole wheat, which is pretty normal for when I do a boule or anything. But if you don't have whole wheat, you can just go 100% all-purpose flour. And he's using all-purpose flour here instead of bread flour. So if you've got all-purpose, feel free to use it. I think the reason for that is that this bread doesn't rise a whole lot. Like it's not a big boule like this. It's like, it's just this like little thing. So what we're gonna do is, for those of you who have 2 types of flour, I'll announce that first, is gonna be 432 grams of all-purpose and 48 grams of whole wheat. So 432 of all-purpose. Measure that one first. If you only have one type of flour, if you're going all-purpose all the way, that's going to be 480, even 480 grams of all-purpose flour. I got mine right here.
Wait, are we cooking with dolphins?
It's all-purpose all the time. It's the dolphin show.
Some people are vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat dolphins.
Use imitation porpoise.
Imitation porpoise.
Cool.
Everybody got that? 432 all-purpose and 48 whole wheat?
Or 480 straight up.
Do you happen to know the cup conversion off the top of your head?
That's a good question. So what I always use is, and I'm always like a little bit, off because this is not an exact science here, but that seems to be about 4 cups.
You could also pour that into.
That's true. Let's see what happens when I measure this. That cup's on that side.
It's on the side that's facing you.
So this is grams or whatever, milliliters. This size cups. All right, let's mix that in there.
We're measuring in Amherst since we have a measuring bowl next to us.
Thank you so much.
That looks about 4 to me.
Yeah, so this comes out, this actually looks a little shy of 4 cups, but this is, of course, what we always talk about measuring volume versus weight, is that, like, since I just dumped it in here, it could be a little compressed, know? So who knows? I think 4 cups should be about what you want. Maybe, I guess you can go a little shy of that. You frequently have the problem, Amherst, where your bread is, your dough ends up very dry. Is that right?
No, very wet, actually.
Oh. Cool. So yeah, I do it before.
Cool. Thank you.
Amherst, when's your birthday?
July 5th? Why?
Getting you a scale for your birthday.
Oh. No, I can get one.
It's the best thing.
I'm just like, yeah, I'm cheap, but thank you.
What's the most random thing we've weighed with our scale? No either. We did weigh a stuffed animal to see how much that weighed.
Yeah.
It was very enlightening. Something like 12 ounces. Back to the matter of hands here. If you have all of your flours weighed out, we're going to go with, let me go to this. We're going to have to mix in our water next. And for water, we are going to use 350 grams of water. So get that. So actually, this recipe says a little funny thing here, which a lot of times they do. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to add about 300 grams of water in first. And then when we add the salt, we'll add the remainder. So it doesn't matter if you measure out 350 now and you hold back a little bit when you mix it in, or however you want to do that. We're putting 350 grams total of water, and we'll probably hold back a little bit for when we mix in the salt. I did, cup size.
Yeah.
So you're doing 300 now or 350 now?
We're going to add in 300 right. Water is actually pretty easy to measure. I believe that 1 cup of water is 60 grams. And that's the same all the time. So 350. No, so let's do some measuring here. For my volumetric friends, that is, what does that say? 1.5 cups of water. Total for my volume. Yeah. So measure out 1.5 cups and then just hold back a little bit from when you mix them. So the dough. Okay. 40, I think. Yeah.
Feel that.
All right. Are you all ready to start mixing? Ladies and gentlemen, start your mixing. I'm just going to, you can use the KitchenAid if you want for this.
We haven't used any starter yet, right? It's just flour, water?
Flour, water, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, let's dump in some of this water. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna hold back just a couple tablespoons. Cool. As that, and then mix it up. Feel free to KitchenAid it if you want to do that. The whole point of this is not to really build like a strong dough. We just want to get everything wet. So like we talked about before, once you start adding in other stuff into your dough, like salt especially, it draws the water away from the flour. So this is a good opportunity to just get everything fully hydrated.
David, was your water room temperature or faucet temperature?
Oh, that's a good question. Mine is actually room temperature because I measured mine about half an hour ago and left it on the counter. So I would suggest that today is a good room temperature day. You know, sometimes my apartment is, the temperature inside my apartment is not room temperature, but today it is, which is going to be in like the high 70s. All right. So I think that now it's time for me to switch to, I'm just going to use my hands to finish mixing this together. I'm seeing a lot of dry spots. So it's good to use your hands to do this because then you can kind of feel where all the dry spots are and just make sure that they're all fully hydrated.
The recipe says to use your hands too.
Yeah, this is what the people on Instagram all do. And people in all the books that I read, everybody uses their hands for this. Even people that like have like a big bakery, you know, they put out tons of loaves. I think it's important to kind of get in there and feel everything, know how it's doing today. Yeah, I mean, as you've probably noticed in your baking, like, especially with sourdough, you know, each day you can get a different result. So it's sort of important to use your senses instead of just simply doing the math on it, you know. Can't always say, oh, mix this for 2 minutes or, oh, use exactly that much water. You have to kind of just feel it out. I've been doing a bunch of recipes from a baker in Miami, and his recipes don't use as much water. His dough is always drier than mine. And I listened to a podcast with him, and he said that basically it's because it's so hot and humid in Miami all the time that has a big effect on the way that he makes his bread. So you got to keep this kind of stuff in mind.
Is yours all mixed, Eric?
Yeah, I got it in the KitchenAid.
Okay.
Cool. All right. This is feeling pretty good. It's got a little bit of graininess from that whole wheat that I put in there. I can put that back down now. All right. What's everybody else doing? Is everybody's on to mixing phase, right? Everyone knows still measuring, right?
Everybody's doing
All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to let this rest for a little bit while we get the rest of our ingredients together. Oh yeah, so maybe you noticed, I'm sure Alice actually noticed, which is why she's asking it. Usually when I do the auto-lees, I actually put in my starter. And this guy doesn't. He does just flour and water. And there's like some people that talk about like how that has a different effect on the enzymes or whatever. So I don't really know. We're going to try it and find out how it works. I'm sure it's fine either way, but it's just interesting to try different things sometimes, see how it goes. But I'm going to leave that. I'm going to just throw a cover on it, just so that way like the fan doesn't dry it out too much or anything. And I'm going to rinse my hands. I'll be right back. All right, probably for the better. Cool. Okay, we've got that. Let's get on to, so we got, let's see, 10, 15. So we'll let this sit for like whatever, 20, 30 minutes while we get the rest of our stuff all already. So.
Was I supposed to put a starter in there?
No starter yet.
So it's just the flour and the water, right?
Just the flour and the water.
Okay. Cool. All right. I got completely distracted. Somebody, yeah. I was doing like 3 different things while all that was happening. So.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, I was like I said earlier, I usually put the starter in at this phase, but this time the recipe says not to, so let's just try it, see what happens. Yeah.
All right, good.
I think it should be fine either way. Yeah, I don't know what I did last week though. All right. Next up is going to be to get some olives. So I've got some olives. I've got Kalamata olives. I love them. They're nice and salty and briny. And that's what I'm going to use. So if you've got any other type, you've got manzanilla olives, or I'm not even sure how to pronounce all these things, niçoise or something. Whatever you got, you can use it. Is anybody not using olives? All right. Oh yeah, we got some no olive crew here. Are you guys going to use like herbs and stuff, or are you just going straight up?
No, I got herbs.
Okay.
I'm using herbs too, no olives.
All right.
What are the herb recommendations, David? Are you using herbs?
I am, yeah. So I've got the official recipe uses herbes de Provence, however you say that. I don't have that. So, but I know that it's kind of a mixture of all these green things. So I had just a mixture of thyme, oregano, threw in some basil, which is definitely not an herbes de Provence, but I like it, and rosemary. You've got marjoram, savory, lavender. Those are all things you can put into it. Or let your imagination be your guide. So I've got my olives here. These are whole pitted olives. If your olives have pits in them, now is the time to remove those. And I'm going to chop them up. So I need to chop these up into, I'm going to chop them to probably like thirds or quarters. The particular shape I don't think matters a whole lot. The point is you want, when you're eating this dough, you want that like little burst of salty deliciousness that you get with the olive. So all right. So the amount that you need, though, if you're adding them right now, is going to be 57 grams of olives. This to me is like it's like a half a cup or something. I'm not quite sure. I didn't measure it. So 57 grams of olives. Measure those out. Chop them up. Pitted olives. Make sure you measure them with the pits out.
Yeah, I just learned how to pit olives this morning because I only had unpitted olives.
I've never pitted an olive.
It basically involves taking something like that, a flat squasher, and just squashing them. And they squash, and then you just pull the pit out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So I was ambitious this morning and thought that I would chop all my olives ahead of time.
Yeah.
So now I have double the olives I need.
Oh, because why do you have double?
Because I read the recipe.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
I did the same thing with the herbs.
Cool. Well, that's probably good for you because here's the thing. My scale doesn't measure things that are under 5 grams. So we're using 3 grams of herbs for everybody. So I couldn't measure that. So I just kind of eyeballed it. But if you measured out 6 grams, you can divide in half. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, I should put in the email that I was having it because this is, yeah. I mean, you can make the full recipe if you want. You're just gonna have a lot of bread.
Do you think if I put more olives in it, it's going to be a problem?
No, I went a little bit above. Yeah, I think that like if you're straight up doubling the number of olives, that might be a lot. That might actually like weigh down the dough and make it soggy in places. But if you're going for like this says 57 grams, you put in 60, 65, 70, it's probably fine. I usually, when I'm adding flavorings in, I usually add a little bit extra because, you know, delicious.
That's okay. I'll eat them all. I love Kalamata olives.
You're adding all of them?
No, I'll eat the rest of them on a salad or something.
Alice, what kind of olives did you end up getting?
I don't know, whatever the green ones are called.
The Manzanilla, I think. Manzanilla, I'm not sure.
No, I think the Nicaraguan ones are
Those are
green
black.
too. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that should be fine. You want to fine.
They're the like kind you get at Whole Foods, and they're pre-mixed with like garlic and lemon.
That's gonna be delicious.
They're my go-tos.
Yeah, those are good. We haven't got that Whole Foods olive mix in a while, but that is really good.
Yeah.
It's also one of those things where like I didn't think I liked olives for a while, and then I had really good olives again, and I was like, oh, I was just eating bad olives.
I think that's a common problem. Jenny didn't like olives. You didn't like olives when we first started dating, right? Yeah. And I convinced her. Yeah, once you have some good ones, especially those ones that come with like all the flavorings on them, delicious.
David had
My trip to Portugal was really important in my return to olive loving.
Yeah, a trip to the Mediterranean will do that to you.
What were you gonna say, Dolores?
I said David had no choice but to like olives.
It's true. I was talking recently, somebody had mentioned like kids not liking bitter foods and like greens, you know. And I was like, I grew up eating broccoli rabi and like not being allowed to leave the table if I finished my broccoli rabi. Like that is bitter stuff. Like you have to really, it was drilled into me at a young age to eat all this like all this stuff. I love it now.
It's an evolution thing that kids don't like that stuff. It's
Yeah.
like you eat that stuff and you die. But it's not
Right.
good.
Right. Yeah. There is some.
So
Yeah.
Dolores was trying to kill my husband is what
No, I tried to make him like all kinds of food. Remember, David, we had so many asparagus from the garden. We used to have asparagus grilled cheese.
3 times a day we would have asparagus. That bed produced so much. We have it with eggs in the morning. We'd have asparagus grilled cheese in the afternoon, and we have a side of it with whatever we're having for dinner.
I want to move to that house.
It was good. It was good. Your asparagus bed's not producing that much anymore, though. Huh?
It's actually doing okay. I mean, we're getting a few meals out of it. I have to add to it this year.
Yeah.
And put some new roots in. I think they're old.
Yeah, could be. All right. Next up. So I got my herbs in a little bowl here to the side. 3 grams. However you want to mix that up. So I didn't, like I said, I couldn't weigh 3 grams. To me, this looks like it's a quarter of a cup total. That's kind of that's what I used last time, I think. I think I might be going a little bit later this time because I'm almost out of my herbs. I've got a Penzies order coming in a couple weeks, but until then, I've got for everyone who's mixing things up again, I've got oregano, rosemary, thyme. Feel free to add savory, marjoram, basil, lavender.
David, if we're using fresh stuff, should we use more or less?
I think that you would use the same amount weight-wise.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but it's going to be a lot more volume-wise.
Yeah. And we should probably cut it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to dice that up for certain. Jenny just suggested that it's going to be that might change the amount of water in the recipe, and that's true because it'll have water in them. But I don't think it's going to change enough to make a difference. Yeah, I don't have any fresh herbs to chop right now, but if you want a quick way of chopping, dicing herbs, take them, right? You take like all of your your whatever, basil and oregano or whatever, lay them out so they're all like lined up, and then take it and roll it, stems and everything, roll it super duper tight, and then use a knife and chop it along, and you'll actually see you can dice up really nice that way.
Any salt in this recipe?
There is salt. We're going to put it in later, yeah. So if you're onto the salt phase, we're putting in 9 grams, which I think is a teaspoon. Here.
David, are you using kosher salt or table salt?
Table salt. Yeah. Yeah, so if you are weighing out the salt and stuff right now, like leave it separate because we're going to add it first before adding the herbs and everything. This way you get to like make all these little bowls like me and feel like you're on a cooking show. All this little stuff.
I got so many bowls going on. I'm actually breaking a bowl as well. I've got that.
Are you making another bowl?
Yeah, because I ran out. I have one a week, and the last one just ran out. So I've got the bowl sitting there.
You're the bowl machine. You're making more than I am.
They're good for like lunch times. Just chop a slice off, toast it, a bit of butter. Oh, so good.
Certain.
Yeah, I love it.
Have you, I don't know, tried adding any flavors or just trying anything different or like change your technique or anything? Have you experimented?
Yeah, and I've just changed the proportion of wheat flour to white flour. I think you use rye flour, don't you? I need to get some rye flour.
Yeah, I switch it up. So I use rye sometimes. I use whole wheat sometimes.
Yeah. I've had a problem with over-proving recently, and I'm not entirely sure. I think I may be leaving it in too long.
Yeah, well, actually,
fluffy.
Could be as it's getting warmer out.
Right. This is totally like the first time we made that bowl. It was like 60 degrees in my apartment, and now it's 80 degrees. So that's a huge impact on how these things rise.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see as we go into the summer here. For those who continue baking, how this is going to change things. I'm probably going to shut down the oven soon because it gets hot in here.
Right.
All right. So, sure. We got people should have 3 grams of herbs. So everybody got that?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. We need 9 grams of salt. So get that. And we got your olives. Olive oil, 12 grams of the old extra virgin olive oil. Again, for my volumetric friends, that looks like it's probably like a teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon. What do you think?
Can I ask a question about the herbs?
Sure. Okay. By the way, Jenny says this is 2 teaspoons of olive oil. I thought, yes,
I
about
thought you had said the herbs were 1/4 cup, but now I think that's wrong.
Okay. Are you doing dry or fresh?
Dry.
Okay. What do you got?
I have herb de Provence and oregano.
Yeah. And how much did you end up getting out of it?
Oh, I just put it in here, but now I think that's too much.
How much does it weigh?
Oh, I don't have a scale.
Oh,
Sorry.
why do you think it's too much?
Oh, because you said that the salt was like 9 grams and that was a teaspoon.
Oh, salt's way heavier though. That's the catch.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, herbs are like so light that they weigh like nothing. Like, I think if we found like a bag of these things, they would weigh like, an ounce would be this big, whereas an ounce of salt is gonna be like that big,
That makes sense. I'm very novice to all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. No, great question though. Yeah, everything is different amounts, and that's why scale is important for this.
What was the thing after salt? Olive oil?
Yeah, olive oil. 12 grams of olive oil, about 2 teaspoons.
How much did you say salt was? No, teaspoons.
Oh, teaspoons. I think that this is a teaspoon of salt. I think 9 grams was a teaspoon.
That's a lot. All right, let me get measure it.
Let's see here. Oh, see, I have a teaspoon measure. I can just find that.
That's all right. I'll just use the scale.
So, David, how much did you say on the dried herbs?
We're looking for 3 grams, which
Oh.
the scale doesn't go that low, but it's roughly a quarter of a cup.
No, it's nowhere near a quarter of a cup. Look, this is 3 grams in a quarter cup. Actually, that's 2 grams. Oh, hold on. That's 2 grams in a quarter of a cup.
Oh, yeah?
So,
No.
it's kind of fun. Of course, it's kind of funky, but
So you got a lot less than a quarter of a cup, right? Is that
yeah, I got maybe a tablespoon.
really? Okay. Well, I'll tell you this though. Last time I did this, I used about this amount, and it tastes delicious. So
This is mine. It's probably about 2 tablespoons,
okay. I
and
think.
I weighed it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good to know. A quarter of a cup is 3 tablespoons, I believe. So, yeah. I guess this is also sort of the thing where you can kind of do whatever you want. Like I said, so this is my quarter cupper. It's almost full. I used this much last time and it tasted good. I like things extra flavorful. So it's this can be your moment to kind of make a judgment call.
Yeah, the herbs have a lot of good flavor.
I think that's going to be a tablespoon. What do you think? I can't dump it in because it's going to dump all over my counter. Yeah, we've changed our mind.
9 grams of salt.
9 grams of salt is a tablespoon. So if you need to up your amount, there is 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. So you didn't know you were going to be doing this much math on a Saturday morning, did you? All right. Does everybody have everything that they need, or have I confused everyone too much? Does anyone have any more questions about the things that they should have and how much of them they should have?
So we need olive oil and salt and our herbs
And olives.
and olives, but we're not doing anything with the sourdough yet.
Not yet. We will measure that in a minute, actually. Yes, Katie.
How much olive oil?
How much olive oil? We've decided this is about 2, maybe something like a little less than 2 teaspoons.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again, this is the kind of thing where it's like, if you're using a teaspoon and a half or 2 teaspoons, I don't know, does it make that much of a difference?
David, how much grams on the olive oil?
12.
That looks like more than 2 teaspoons, though.
Okay.
For those who don't have a scale, there's a website I use, and all my breads have turned out pretty okay. I just shared that on the chat.
Yeah, please do. I think that would be super helpful since we can never decide how much this stuff.
Thank you.
That's cool. I'll bookmark that. All right, let's see. We've been about,
Or I could just take a 5-minute break too if you're.
yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I think everything's pretty much measured and stuff. If you want to take a 5-minute break to just clean up your kitchen and do whatever, we will mix this stuff in just a minute.
I'm gonna clean up the kitchen.
All right, you do it. I'm going to stand here and talk to the people on the chat. So Alice, what's going on this weekend?
I'm mostly staying home to do a bunch of work for the conference I'm hosting on Thursday.
Oh, cool. Is this the What was this? It was like a placemaking conference, or what was this one
It's
about?
Boston Harbor for All.
Okay. What's going on there?
We're hosting a bunch of national speakers who already have their scripts and things ready to go. We're doing virtual tours of a bunch of local sites. They have videos and slides and scripts, and that's ready to go. But I have to now figure out the script for all the things that happen in between, like when the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs gets asked questions, what are those questions? Who's saying what? When people gather for lunch, what do the table moderators do? So it's stuff that I would not worry about if it was happening in real life, but it's happening online, so it's like.
You can hire us to be the entertainers for when there's breaks. We can like tell bad jokes and like dance.
We could lead everybody at baking adventure.
I'll consider that.
I was thinking about the Macarena actually.
Do that.
I can sing that song really well.
I don't know if I
We
can
should
do
put that on the
Macarena.
karaoke list.
No, but there's no. I don't like karaoke songs that there's the same word over it.
Macarena.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's that like 100 times.
Hey, I'm gonna go back to watching.
All right. Do that. Yeah, if you want, you can separate. I need 3 more egg yolks. I'm also in the middle of preparing a recipe. Because now that I'm running a cooking show, guys, I have to like test these recipes before I lead everybody through them. So I'm preparing another recipe that I want to bake later tonight. So we'll see how that goes. The next recipe is semitas de llena, which is similar to Mexican conchas, if you know that. Yeah, it's basically a little sweetbread. It's like a Central American sweetbread with sugar and stuff on top. It's good. Yeah, I've been following this Honduran baker on Instagram. Instagram's like the worst place to like pick up stuff for baking because there's so much of it. I've been following a Honduran baker, so he's been posting these kind of stuff. I thought it'd be fun.
In English?
He does English and Spanish.
Well, he was born in the U.S. He's lived in the U.S. his whole life. He's of Honduran descent.
Right, exactly. He's like first generation, right? So his parents came here from Honduras, and so he kind of raised, both cultures and stuff. Cool.
David, how much should we have measured out our sourdough, or we're still just waiting on that?
No, that's a good question. I haven't measured mine out yet. I'm not gonna do it just yet. Like, well, if you want, all right, here's the thing. If you want to measure it into a separate bowl, you can. I'm just gonna measure mine straight into there right about now. So we're gonna do 86 grams of mature starter. So everybody who's back on the call, it's almost everybody, I think it's time to just start mixing this stuff. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna add in our starter into this dough that's now been resting. So 86 grams of mature starter. Maybe somebody who does volumetric things can explain how much that is volume-wise.
87 grams, you said?
86, but who's counting?
Okay.
I'm gonna need that. All right, my sourdough's looking good. It's all bubbly, starter. It rose overnight. It rose all the way up to the top of this jar and fell back down to there. So 86 grams, eh? I'm curious, how is everybody's starter looking today? Like, how is it compared to normal?
It feels foamier.
Yeah, actually the same for mine. Mine is frequently, like the last few times, normally when I use it, it's a little more like thick, and it, I go to pull it apart and like you see all these threads coming out of it. That's not the case right now. Mine's really foamy and actually a little more liquid than usual. Kind of runs right off the spoon.
I was worried though, last week there was an issue of which jars were clean, and so rather than putting it into my usual peanut butter jar, I put it into a pickle jar. When I opened it yesterday, it smelled a little more pickly than normal.
That's funny. Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll have some pickly sourdough.
Some dill fougasse.
Yeah.
It's about 0.35 cups for those doing cup measurements.
There you go, third of a cup. Thank you, Alan. That's very helpful. Yeah, so this is, I think I'm gonna have to kind of change up my strategy. If you noticed recently, it used to be like when we were doing this in the winter, I would say like take out your starter on Thursday, feed it Thursday morning, or Friday morning, feed it again in the evening, all that stuff. But now with the weather changing, you know, I just said take it out Friday night and feed it Friday night. And when I got up this morning, like I said, mine had risen all the way up. I could see the market look in the jar, and then it fell back down. And now it's kind of this like soupy mixture. I think that the heat is really making it super active. So I don't know. As the summer progresses, I might have to change my strategy more and do things like not leave it out overnight, for instance. Maybe let it rise, put it back in the fridge, or just get up early and feed it early. I bet you this thing would rise in 3 hours, as opposed to the usual like 5.
Yeah, the same thing happened to mine, David. I fed it last night at like 7 and it was already risen to the top like a couple of hours later. And then this morning it had deflated a bit.
Yeah, totally. So I think that this is going to be fine for this, but you know, like in general, you kind of want to use it when it's at its peak. So I think that this is past its peak now. So you have to keep this in mind for future things in the summer. All right, so I've got that in there. I'm going to add my salt in now as well. So I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top. Boom. And then I'm going to take my reserved water. So 50 grams of water or whatever you have left in your jar. And I'm going to sprinkle that over the salt. In there. Ta-da. So what we should have in here is we should have our 86 grams of starter. We should have our salt, and we should have the rest of our water and the dough all in here, ready to go. For those of you with the KitchenAid, now's the time to use it. Let's get mixing. I'm gonna put it on here. I'm gonna put it on like a low speed. Let's see, put it on low speed or maybe like on 2 or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't give the speed to it, but usually when you use the dough hook, use it on low speed. And I'll do this for like a couple minutes. For those of you who are mixing by hand, you know, mix all that stuff in by hand and then try to knead it for a few minutes, maybe like 5 minutes of kneading. You can knead it like regular style. You can do the slap and fold technique, which we talked about in previous adventures. So, before I turn this sucker on, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, so just double checking. We should have everything in the bowl for mixing except the herbs, olives, and oil. Is that right?
That's right. So herbs, olives, and oils are out so far. I'm gonna put those in later. All right. I'm just gonna mute myself, and then I'll be. If you need any questions, just kind of wave at me. I'm gonna let this room run for a couple minutes. Right. How's everybody looking?
How should it be looking?
It should be all right. So this is interesting. Mine was really liquidy to begin with. I don't know if anybody else is having that problem. I was afraid it wasn't going to come together. I thought I'd messed up the recipe. I just looked it up just to double check I did everything right. I think that it's probably because my sourdough starter is so soupy right now that it is really liquidy. So I had to run it a little bit longer than I expected in the KitchenAid, and it kind of came back together. So I do have a kind of a cohesive mass. All the liquid has been absorbed and everything, and it's sticking to the dough hook. But it took a little while longer than I expected, and so I think that those of you who are doing it by hand, you're going to probably have the same thing. It is still very sticky though. I'm gonna add in the olive oil and stuff like that. We'll see. I may even end up tossing a little more flour because I just think this is really sticky and wet right now.
Can you show us what yours looks like then?
Yeah, sure.
Mine is really sticky.
Yeah. So actually, like let's see here. So here's my dough hook. I'm gonna pick that up, and you see it does stick to the dough hook, but then it kind of oozes right off.
Yeah. Okay. Similar.
Yeah. Usually that would stick a lot more. So I think we'll add in the olive oil, and I think we'll add in a little more flour with it if everybody else is having the same problem.
Mine looks like this. Is this how it's supposed to?
That looks pretty good to me, yeah, because yours is sticking together in a ball. Yeah, that's helpful.
But it's supposed to go together.
Yeah, we don't need it to be like, a super dense or dry ball, but it should be able to kind of hold its shape a little bit. Especially if you, like Mikey's made 600 boules so far, so he kind of knows what this is supposed to look like. We're looking at, again, this is going to be a 73% hydration dough, which I think is basically the same thing we do for the boule. So yeah, actually this is a good little segue. You'll notice that on these recipes, a lot of times they give everything in terms of grams, and they also give everything in terms of what they call a baker's percentage. And that's a really handy number. It's a kind of a funny little computation they do, but it's handy because then it lets you talk about your recipes, and it lets you tweak them and understand what you're doing, and it lets you double them or halve them or whatever you want to do to them. If you're running a bakery, you could make 40 times the amount of dough that you would normally make here by looking at the percentages. And so the percentages, the way that it's given is the weight of your flour is always 100%. And everything else is a ratio of that. So you'll see in this recipe, we've got 73% water at 350 grams, because that's 75% of the total weight of the flour that we would use. So anyway, a little baker's trivia for you. But by looking at that number, you can then determine what your dough should look like. Because you say, oh, I make this boule all the time. It's always at 73%, 72%. It doesn't seem like this. So cool. Is everybody ready to add some olive oil and some more flour probably?
Yeah.
All right. So I got my olive oil. I'm going to throw that back in the mixer. Put that in there. And then I'm going to grab a little bit more flour. I'm just going to eyeball this as to how much to use. I'm going to start with like a tablespoon. Like a kind of a rounded tablespoon here. I'm going to throw that in too. I don't want to do too much. It's really easy to overflour these things because, the sourdough does need a lot of hydration to ferment and stuff.
You can put it in, but you can't take it back out.
Exactly. You can always add more flour later if it's not looking good. So I've got my olive oil in here. I still don't have the herbs or olives in yet. We're going to add those in at the very end. So I got the olive oil in, and I just threw in a tablespoon of flour. And I'm going to do some more mixing. I'm going to put this guy on probably speed number 2. And before I mute myself, anybody have any more questions?
All right, off we go.
All right, so I ended up throwing in even an extra tablespoon beyond what I had told you guys, just because it still seemed like it needed it. But it's coming back together now. It's looking smooth. You know, it's funny when you add in the olive oil. It first it kind of makes it break up a little bit, right? And then you're like, oh man, all my hard work, it's going away. Well, not my hard work. KitchenAid's doing the work right now, but for all you guys mixing by hand.
I just saw Mikey doing some slapping and folding there.
All right. So I think this is looking a lot better than it was looking a few minutes ago. So I'll just leave that. Mikey, you in a KitchenAid whatever KitchenAid vacation? What's going on?
Me?
Yeah, are you using the KitchenAid?
That's a good question. It's sitting right next to me. I should have actually used. I didn't realize it was going to be this much work. I generally prefer to use hands just for the texture, but yeah. In this case, probably should have used the KitchenAid. But it's come together pretty well now. So
Cool. Yeah, it definitely is a lot of work. I'm not jealous of everybody mixing by hand, or maybe I am. You can get your arm workout in for the day.
Yeah, feeling like it.
David, what's yours look like?
So let's see. Jenny just had it up. So it's like, you can see it's come together more. It's smooth now. Let's dip this guy and pull it out. You see it's still like, it's not like super like strong or tight or anything, but it is holding its shape, and I can see it's kind of got a lot of, you know, it's sticky, but it's got some strength to it.
How does this look compared to when you made it 2 weeks ago?
I don't totally remember, actually. I should take more pictures of my process, but I think this should be fine. All right, Mom, what kind of herbs are you using?
Oregano, rosemary, and thyme from the garden.
Cool. Cool. All right. How are my mixers looking? Is everybody looking good? Cool. All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. All right, now the last bit, we're just gonna add in the olives and the herbs. So just dump those in. Right, it's gonna be good. And we're gonna mix these up, but we don't need to go super crazy mixing them this time. You don't need to mix for 10 minutes or whatever. We just need to disperse it through there. And then as we do our stretch and folds today too, that's also gonna mix it some more. So you don't need to, so you're in the home stretch is what I'm saying. So add my herbs and olives. I'm going to turn on the mixer again just for a minute, just to get it all dispersed through. Those of you doing by hand, same thing, just mix it all in. Again, you're not sure, you don't need to like knead it out. Right. All right, I'm done mixing. I scrape down this dough hook. Its job is done for the day.
Until your next baking project.
So my next baking project. My Honduran baker does everything by hand, so we'll see. We'll see. I have my doubts because it's basically like making like almost a brioche, which is going to be a lot of mixing. But of course, he puts it all in one step. It's just like mix everything together. So we'll see what that entails. I feel like this is these cooking classes are just like an advertisement for kitchen scales and KitchenAids.
I feel that way too, David.
I should have like an affiliate link. Guys, buy through my link, save 10%. I'll get a cut. All right. That's it. That's it. We were done mixing, everybody. You excited? Actually, I still see a lot of mixing on the screen. Let's go over quickly. So it is now, sorry. It's now 11 on the dot en punto. And we're going to do a couple stretch and folds today. So at 11:30 and at noon, we're going to do the typical stretch and folds you guys have done. Anybody that's been on this call has done this 100 times. We're going to do that. And then at about 1 o'clock, put a cover
I believe Katie's new to the stretch and fold technique, David.
But I know that. I'll go through it. I just want to tell you what's going to happen here, and then we'll go through the individual technique. So at a high level, stretching, folding at 11:30 and noon, and then putting this thing in the fridge at 1. That's where it's going to stay until tomorrow, until we need it. So for recap, or a first cap for everyone who needs to know how to stretch and fold, it's going to be, what you're going to do is we're going to stretch the dough and we're going to fold it. And this helps to mix the stuff in there, and it helps to develop the gluten, build that gluten, which is going to be what is going to be critical to helping this dough get nice and airy and fluffy, and it's going to rise well. So to do this, what we're going to need to do is we're going to get some water. So hold on, I'm going to get a little bit of water.
We slept with the windows open last night because it was approximately 1,000 degrees in our house. And at like 3:30, we heard a lot of fire engines, and I was like cursing in my sleep of why their alarms were going off. And then this morning I saw there's a 7-alarm fire a half mile down the street from our house. Five houses, 38 people displaced.
Wow.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. No one was killed.
Yeah.
A couple of firefighters were injured, it said.
Yeah, mild
Pretty
injuries.
serious. Yeah, it's no joke. I'll probably go take a look at that today.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you couldn't like smell anything from here, but
You weren't awakened by the torrential rain?
I did.
We were awakened by that too.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, we left out all of our stuff on the deck, but it's not true. Jenny was smart before we went to bed. Brought it all in. I hadn't noticed.
I
Okay.
brought my bike in and was then at 4 a.m. very glad I have brought my bike in.
Yeah. All right. So stretching and folding. Here's how we're gonna do it. So we got the dough in here. Boom. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna wet my hands a little bit, because otherwise this stuff's gonna stick. And I'm gonna grab a corner of this dough, or just a side of this dough. Pick it up, stretch it out, and plop it over, fold it over. Now the water is just there because this is really sticky. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that 4 times. I'm gonna do north, south, east, and west. So just scoop it, stretch it, fold it.
Smells so good.
This smells really good. I don't know about you guys. It smells
Should
like
we be stretching and folding now and at 11:30?
I'm just demonstrating right now.
Cool.
But you can feel free to do it right now with me if you want. So again, yeah, wet the hand, scoop it, stretch it, and fold it over into the middle. And that's it. And so you do that north, south, east, and west, and then you let it rest for half an hour. And you'll see, and pay attention as you do this, as to how the dough changes. Right now, you're going to feel it's going to be like a little rough. It's not going to be totally smooth. Each time you do it, you're going to notice it's going to get smoother and smoother, and it might even start to get a little aerated. The gases are going to be building up from the fermentation. So that's what you're going to do at 11:30 and noon. And then
11:30 noon, I fold and stretch, and then what?
And then you put it in the fridge at 1. Yeah. If you are doing your stretches and folds and you notice that, let's say at noon, you're like, this still doesn't have enough strength. For those people who have done this a bunch of times, you're like, this doesn't have enough strength. Give it another set at 12:30 or whatever. You know, you can do 3 sets, you can do 4 sets, whatever you feel you're going to need to give this dough some strength.
Should we cover this with plastic wrap when we put it in the refrigerator?
Yeah, put it in the fridge covered. I'm using my little cover thing here. But yes, plastic wrap would be good, or whatever, beeswax wrap or whatever you want to just make sure that it gets in the fridge, it's covered, and it doesn't dry out. That's going to be important.
When I'm leaving it out between stretching and folding, do I leave it uncovered or covered?
Good question. Yeah, cover it again.
with plastic, or like not just like a kitchen towel?
Yeah, you could do it with a kitchen towel if you don't have any other option. So, but I think plastic would be your best bet, something that's pretty airtight.
Thank you.
And if you do something that's airtight, like, this cover, I'm going to put this cover on, but I'm not going to like seal it. I'm not going to slap it down because as this ferments, it's going to build gases, and you'll see that it may end up warping your cover, or we had a cover launch off of the bowl one time. That was exciting. So just keep that in mind. Cool. Who's got some more questions for me?
Well, for clarifying, so after you put it in the fridge, tomorrow we're coming back here at 10 o'clock
10 a.m. We're gonna come back here. We're gonna take it
with
out
mimosas.
with mimosas. Yeah. You're making mimosas tomorrow?
No. It's just
You
gonna be
can't, you can't promise this.
Somebody else is bringing them. We bring the dough, the batter.
All
Someone
right.
else.
Jenny's gonna make us drinks, and 10 o'clock tomorrow, we're gonna take this. We're gonna go straight from the fridge. So 10 o'clock, we're gonna take it out of the fridge, and we're gonna shape it into these beautiful leaf structures. And then we're gonna let it rest for a little bit, and that's gonna be the second rise, and that's gonna get it all risen up, and then we're gonna bake it. So I think I said in the email we're gonna bake at noon, and then we're gonna eat at 12:30. So.
Are we going to bake this on a cookie sheet, or do we use pizza stone?
That's up to you. So here's the catch. Pizza stone totally is a great option. Your pizza stone, I believe, Mom, is actually really big, so you could probably fit 2 of these. This is the catch. We're going to have 2 of these things. So I'm going to use baking sheets with either parchment paper or my silicone bake mats. But a pizza stone, if you've got one that's big enough for 2 of these guys, is going to be a great solution. They're going to be, just for a sense of scale, they're going to end up being like that big. So whatever that comes out, it's like an A4 piece of paper for those friends of mine. Legal.
Maybe I'll do one on the pizza stone and one on a cookie sheet.
You could definitely do that too. If you do that, you'd have to keep an eye on them to make sure that one of them doesn't burn while the other.
Yeah, I probably would cook them separately, though.
Yeah, you can do that. So last time I made this a couple weeks ago, I cooked them separately. I cooked one actually earlier in the morning. I cooked one later in the morning. So you can do that too. It's fine. And Eric, what do you think you're going to do? Because I know you have something to do tomorrow at 11.
I'll probably. How long does it bake for?
I think it's a half an hour or 25 minutes or something. Let's see.
If I get up early, then I'll make it. I'll make it before I go. Otherwise, I'll make it after, I guess.
Okay.
You cool. Could do it tonight too.
Yeah, you could do it tonight, right? So it's pretty flexible. But of course, you won't see like us.
Yeah. So I'll probably wait till after you do it.
Yeah. You could also, if you want, you can shape it at 10 o'clock with us, and you can either go straight into the oven at that point. That's totally fine. I did that last time, actually. I shaped it and then just immediately went to the oven. I didn't let it do a second rise, and it was fine.
Yeah. Well, I have to leave here by 10:30, so.
Okay, yeah, that might not work.
Yeah.
So you can shape it at 10, and then maybe put it in the fridge for a second rise, and then bake it again at 1 o'clock or whatever. I don't know. You can do that. I'll send you, if you do it before us, I'll send you a video about somebody will show us how to shape these things. And if you do it after us, you can see our video.
I'll probably just do it after you, so don't worry.
Okay. Cool. Sweet. All right, that's all I have. Does anybody else have any other questions?
No, I'm good.
If our temperature is drastically different temperatures in different spots, right now for the resting and whatever, are we looking for the warmest spot or?
You're looking for something that's kind of in the mid 70s. So 75, 78 degrees. My apartment's hot everywhere. So
82.
82 in my apartment right now. So we'll see how this goes. I may end up putting it in the fridge early. But yeah, that's what you're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
See you tomorrow, everyone.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Have a great day, everyone.
Stay cool.
Thank you.
Oh, you have to hit.
I did.
You have to hit.
Oh.